Hey everybody, welcome back to the Sith Dominion, the podcast where we look at all kinds of fun stuff, but from a Sithy point of view, dark side point of view. My guest today is Matt Thompson. He is a local nerd that we all love and adore for all of his, nerdiness, and we'll get to talk about some of that. I had no idea that you were such a nerd until the Viasat Con, where you were embedded in all sorts of things with that, and not just embedded, but you seemed to know what was going on, whether it was the video games or the whatever. Like, you were just shaking and moving.
The word embedded had me, I was a little confused there. I'm like, what do you mean? Like I was a secret agent? I'm not sure. I do not remember this. No, I don't know anything about nerd stuff. I'm just, if you speak confidently, people believe you.
So I want to have a shameless plug. I wrote an article, so just a little more background. Matt Thompson and I used to work together. We're still at the same organization, but yeah, it was fun to work with him, alongside him, and now we can talk about other things besides work, which is really awesome. But I had written an article about a local comic store here in Bryan, Texas, and go over to geeknewsnow.net and check out that article. And it was just an incredible gem. Like, I had no idea the story behind it. I don't want to give it away, but one of the cool things is when you have a friend reach out and say, hey, I used to frequent that shop. So tell me about your involvement with that way back.
Oh, so back in the day, for our younger listeners and viewers and things like that, the internet wasn't really a thing. We had to get all of our media, like, physically. And so I'd actually drive to places and pick it up. I was super into comic books growing up. Not necessarily even one particular comic book, anything like that. I just loved comic books. Like, if I saw, I was a sucker for cover art. If there was a artist I had not seen before that had a distinct style or something like that, I would pick it up and I'd be like, oh, this story sucks or whatever. I'm going to buy the next episode because it just looks cool. And so, I read a ton of comics growing up. And then, physical comic shops, I spent a lot of time at. Obviously, with high-speed internet and all that sort of stuff like we have now, and if you're from the future listening to this, with our low-speed internet that we have now, that's a less prevalent thing, but absolutely, I still enjoy comic books. I don't read them as often as I used to because I simply don't have time. But board games, all that sort of stuff, love that sort of thing, and absolutely, BCS Comics, I used to go there all the time. I used to pick up Todd McFarlane's Spawn.
Yeah.
That was my one that I always read.
Were you in the era of 2000s, mid 2000s when you were picking those up? What was that era of Spawn?
So I basically started reading Spawn with issue 1, and I think I have all the way through 220, so I don't know exactly when that ended.
Nikes, my God. All right, well, sometimes you get a gem off the street. Matt Thompson, thank you. I can't believe this. We're going to have a to talk about.
You did not get me off the street.
Well, you're just this cornucopia of... Yeah, all right. So, last week we talked a little bit about the rule of two, and talked the last 2 episodes we touched on the whole Sidious playing with the rule of two pretty loosely. So we thought Zane and I, whom you've met, actually, I recall, wanted to bring Maul into our discussion. Maul's a very interesting character to me, either canon, uncanon, I don't care. We're just going to talk about Maul because it's just a really deep character, and with time, the story around him just continues to build, kind of like I would say a Boba Fett. Back in the day, there was these small snippets of Boba Fett, but then we ended up with all this cool, backstory and future story now of Boba. And just because he died didn't mean he died. And just because Maul died didn't mean Maul died. He didn't die in his pit, and neither did Maul. So, wow. I'm just now catching on to that one. Well, that might be a topic for another time. Recycling more things, are we? So So talking about Maul, just real high level, knowing kind of where he came from on Darth Maul, getting coached and trained and whatever as a very young child with Sidious, and to the point where he gets chopped in half. So let's look at just that section. When you look at Maul and you think of just that beginning part that we were privy to, right in the beginning of his story, where did you anticipate him being? I'm assuming not at the bottom of a pit.
So I am going to throw it out there that you're using the word coaching very loosely when it comes to his
torturous training.
Upbringing. Yeah. Well, I was going to try and avoid the torture word there, but yeah. Like the torture that molded him into what he was or is or will be, whatever.
Sure.
Again, death has no meaning in this universe. We'll work around it. But for sure. So if his story arc were to go from basically being kidnapped as a kid, being brought up as an apprentice, and then being chopped in half, and that's kind of where it ended, and they never brought him back anything. Honestly, that is like the most disappointing like story arc he could have possibly had, because there's so much depth that is there. And I remember seeing him get chopped in half in theaters, and I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Like seriously, like this character is so cool, and like this, like we're done with him. And so I was like, even then I was like, okay, like he'll come back, because at that point, we already had the other pit guy that I'm going to lose the name, the other Mandalorian, Boba Fett. We've already mentioned him multiple times, and I just lost it. But we already had the lore that he crawled his way out of the Sarlacc and everything like that, and so I'm like, oh, no worries. They're gonna bring him back. And then, like, again, I saw the success of movies in theaters. So I was like,
come on, guys.
Disappointing. Yeah, exactly. He was like in the movie such a waste, because absolutely there is such a like interesting story to tell, even just from like an action thriller kind of perspective, from an emotional perspective, from like there's just so many layers that's wrapped up into his character. And so yeah, just like being discarded down a well or whatever is not where I saw him going, for sure.
So yeah, you look at his progression too, and the backstory that we got during the Clone Wars with his brother Savage, and the onion of Darth Maul, I believe there's still more to be written even. And I know that Darth Maul is our subject for a little later for the deep dive. We're touching on it now, but it's relevant because of our... A couple days ago, there was some discussion online about, I can't remember, was that the Screen Rant? Yeah, Screen Rant had an article about how there may be a connection between Ahsoka and Maul in the new series, even though he's already dead, and we know Obi-Wan already, or did he? So that connection, very much so, they discussed in Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 5. I gotta look at my notes to be sure, but I can't find it. So if I'm wrong, y'all tell me.
Season 2 or 3.
But Ahsoka was talking about Morgan Elsbeth's planet being destroyed and all of these things, and I'm starting to kind of, oh my gosh, maybe, at the time I was like, yeah, she's probably maybe a witch, I don't know, but and now it's okay, well, now can we get that connection to Darth Maul, and then can we swing over here and get the connection to Maul? We already know there's cloning facilities hidden. We already know that there's potentially some parallels with cloning, maybe an Arab Empire versus what we talked a little bit about that on the show yesterday. Oh my God, a week ago, whatever. So that's why we're kind of talking about it now. On that, I don't know if you saw that bit about not Marin, that's another witch, Morgan. I also think, in theory, Morgan and Morgan, the witch in the King Arthur stories as well. I think there's probably a little something there. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
So, are you referring to like what are my thoughts on is she actually a witch or like that sort
One,
of stuff?
and then two, if so, a Maul connection.
Yeah, for sure. So I think that so when we talk about like anything connected to the Mandalorian universe, we also have to talk about like the financial aspect of it because not that I am bitter about some of the decisions that have been made, but obviously if you're going to make a product like even if it's a creative product, at some point you have to keep the lights on, you know. And so I 100% think that if they do, I don't think they ever intended originally for her to be a witch. But if they subtly retcon that, you know, because there's all this sort of stuff like it's like, oh, well, why didn't she use her magic earlier and this and that? It's like, oh, well, their magic works best on the planet and, you know, all that sort of stuff. So there's a lot of reasons, or there's a lot of ways they could really easily get into it. And where I'm going with the monetization of it is that realistically, a lot of fans of Mandalorian and things like that probably don't know a whole lot of the Darth Maul side of things. And so if they do make her into a witch and are able to pull in a lot of that backstory of Maul and everything like that, it would be a great way to introduce those newer fans who like, because a lot of people started watching Mandalorian that weren't super into like, oh, I've read all the extended universe novels and things like that. I think that would be I'm the nerd. I think that would be a great way to pull those people in and get them introduced. That's like, oh, this is more than just like the Sith apprentice. You know, he did more than that. So I honestly think that would be absolutely a stellar move. And again, I love Darth Maul as a character, so absolutely I would love to see her be a witch. And yeah, there's like cloning things and that I'm kind of like whatever on if they do bring Maul back. But I think even if they just did it to introduce his story and like, you know, I hate like necessarily like flashback episodes or anything like that, but you know, if they were able to have some of those stories where they're recounting like what happened, who it is, even if it's, you know, just 15 minutes in a story, and give Maul's, you know, a synopsis of who he is real quick, I would love that. I would absolutely think that would be great.
Yeah, and for all of those folks that I believe you touched on something important, that were drawn into perhaps Mandalorian, that we're not watching Clone Wars animated series. We're not watching Rebels animated series. If they did, it was in passing while their children were watching. And then you go to Mandalorian, much more adult subject matter, hard decision making, you know, and I mean just some good writing, of course. And you've introduced these characters. Oh, who's this Ahsoka going after the Baby Yoda? I'm so confused. Oh, I'm Googling it. Oh, she's in this cartoon. Okay. Well, now she's getting her own show. Oh, my goodness. Well, now wait, Darth Maul has some connection. What? Yeah, Ezra Maul. Come on. You didn't see those? Oh, you got to watch the cartoon? I believe you're exactly right. If you can even get those of us who love it a little taste more, but I believe you're going to have folks go down that rabbit hole when they see what an amazing character it was. And I think a way they've already done that was at the end of Solo, Star Wars story, where Kira is, and it's I can't remember the name of the organization, Shadow Sun. Internet world is going to beat on me for that. But he was and we're going to talk about it later, the leader of the underworld crime syndicate, and I can't remember it now. Yeah. So all you did at the end was see, at the end of that movie, Maul, you know, oh, he's in charge. Who is this ominous dude if you've never seen it? So, yeah, I think they're doing it right by tapping into him, and with monetization, that is kind of how you stay in business, isn't it? So...
I don't know. I tend not to work for companies that stay in business, but that's a completely different podcast.
Totally for another time. So let's move on a little deep side with Dana. Deep side. I can never say this right. I'm gonna have to read it. Hold on. Dark side deep dive with Dr. Dana. Yes, it does have quotes, and actually, that's funny. It does have quotes, but we're going to talk about Maul in a real.
Putting the quotes around one word there.
Oh, which word? Doctor. Wow.
Wow, he's in confidence, Dana.
Oh my goodness, this guy. No, we're going to talk about.
Do you have a stethoscope? I think not.
Oh my goodness. Neither did your PhD professor have a stethoscope. Okay, anyway. I'm not salty. I'm playing. This guy likes to give me grief. So, I'm not even going to try to say it again, but we're going to talk about Maul. There's a couple of things about his story, and we started off with that coaching, training, the influence that Sidious had to build upon layer after layer of. So, if you don't know, just go to Wiki or the Star Wars Wikipedia, and they actually have some pictures from the comics of him being, and it was a very difficult ride for him. So when I would say you and I, Matt, and found out about all of this, we grew with this story. We were like, oh my God, he went through what for what to do what. And he was so driven and so resilient. I think, I forget the words resilient and perseverance, right? Obi-Wan cut him in half. Even after all of that, and we know later on he comes back again. So, he's stolen as a child. He's beaten and trained in the ways of the Sith in a very Sith assassin-y way. He goes after and does what he's supposed to do in the name of the Sith and Palpatine and chases down potentially the One. Beats a Jedi Master, is then cut in half by a Jedi, and then comes back with many legs, and then goes away again. And then comes back with 2 legs, and is killed by Obi-Wan again. I'm not saying that because we're totally redoing these stories. I'm saying this because that is resilience, that is perseverance, and in business, in your job, in every single day of your life, if all you're going to do is, I got cut in half again, I guess I better find a new set of legs, or are you just going to lay there and die? You going to crawl out of the pit of Carcoon, or are you just going to sit there and be digested over 1,000 years? Come on, Matt. I know you got some thoughts on that.
Disclaimer for anyone listening: if you get cut in half at your job, please seek medical attention. As we have established, Dana is not a medical doctor. We should not be
the proverbial. Can you use bunny ears on that one, right? Oh my God.
But I mean, absolutely. So as far as if you were to look at him again, like in the fantastical world of Star Wars, as he's an employee or whatever kind of thing. Obviously, most of us are not going to come back from getting cut in half or whatever. That's not a realistic kind of real world analogy. But like, if you were to look at him as like a career man or whatever, kind of starting at the bottom, having that absolutely awful job that you hate and everything like that, and now you can say Darth Maul may not have had like the choice to get out of that as much as like one of us would. But like worked his way up, everything like that. And then there's a lot of dedication that he actually has to, because even after he gets cut in half, he still considers himself a Sith Lord. He still considers himself the true apprentice. And again, if I get cut in half, I'm like, nope, it is retirement for me. I am riding out the rest of my days in comfort. Like there's absolutely no way I'm going back to the boss who sent me to get cut in half. But that's not how Maul works. What are you laughing at?
You keep saying it. I mean, and in my mind, I'm not thinking, I'm getting cut in half, but certainly decisions can be made within your org where you get cut in half. All right, so now what? maybe you got to figure out automation as he did, automated mechanical legs more. So I'm just giggling because all I keep thinking of is you laying in like half in a cubicle somewhere. I just can't.
And he laughs at the image of me being cut in half. Just putting it out there.
Oh my goodness.
But back to the analogy, for sure. Like there's times like even if you think about not necessarily like being a leader, but if you are, and like having your team cut in half, but like let's say you are like a data analyst and you work solo or whatever, and you are the person who gets cut, and there's always going to be that question of, all right, well, this career path, like, came to an abrupt end. I was not expecting, I had just killed a freaking Jedi Master. Like, I was on top of the world. Like, we just crushed this last project, and now I'm at the bottom of the well. So there's always going to be that question, in your mind, like, do I continue down this same path? Do I try and respec and get other skills and go into something else that may or may not be more stable? I picked data analyst. I know that's like a really stable job for most people, but that was just the first thing that came to my head.
No, it's great.
So like that's a real analogy when it comes to actually like work and things like that. It's probably, and again, I know accidents do happen, but most of us are not going to physically have the toils that he went through. But for sure, like, I've been fired from jobs. I'm sure, like, you've lost jobs and things like that. It happens to everybody at some point. And so, pretending like you will not be the guy at the bottom of the well every time may not work out for you, folks.
No, and I think this is a good transition. One of the people I had written down in our kind of production stuff was Steve Jobs. He got cut straight up from the company he started from nothing. Late 90s, guess who's back? Back again. And, making a partnership, even making partnership with Intel, or with Intel, but with the other guy. Yeah, not Gates. Steve. Thank you, Bill Gates, the devil. I'm sorry. That's what. There was a movie. I don't know if you saw that. It was like Bill Gates was actually played by Anthony Michael Hall. You ever see that? Yeah, it's fun.
I don't think so. There's a lot of movies out there, Danny. You got to be a little more specific.
Yeah, okay. I got nothing. So, adapting, right? Moving into that, we have. Staying on that. So, the CEO of Microsoft took when they stepped in, had I cannot pronounce Nadella is the last name. Made a conscientious shift to the cloud. So here is this Betamax versus what you call it? CD or not
VCR.
VCR, sorry. God, I'm so old. I don't even know what I'm talking about. Who's going to win the standard, right? And you had Blu-ray and HD, and who's going to win the standard? And I kind of see this as: are we going to stay with hard software, loading software? Are we going to do this somewhere else and try to secure it, whatever? So making that shift, and now we all use 365 by default. They've made us put our toe in the water and get in. All cloud computing, and you gotta be able to adapt and make a pivot and a change. And when we think about Microsoft and them doing this, we also think about Darth Maul and him making a pivot, and whether that was being in the crime syndicate organization, which I still can't remember the name, or demonstrating his adaptability in getting the answer that he always wanted. And if you see that last scene with him and Obi-Wan, it is not a child scene. It's a very deep scene, and if Star Wars is important to you, and the story is important to you, and the lessons you can learn is important to you, this moment to me was one of the greatest moments in Star Wars animated history. And I say that, and I will die on the hill, I don't care, because that moment where he finally saw and understood everything, he had adapted, he had done everything all the way through, and here he is finally at the end being able to die in peace. I know that was a lot. And yes, you win the, you take credit for that. Say it.
It was a great scene.
No, I'm talking about the crime syndicate.
The organization he ran was the Shadow Collective.
Dirt. Yeah, that's me. Oh my, I can't think. I
was trying to remember the whole time too, and I was like, oh wait, because you kept saying words that were like adjacent to it. I'm like, oh, just stop saying things.
Shadows of the Empire. No.
But you're absolutely right. Like if you watch nothing else, if you look into nothing else when it comes to Darth Maul, check out his second death. It's fantastic. There's he's a very deep character when it comes to because we talked about up until getting cut in half and everything like that, but then after that, there's a whole other layer. Like you talked about, like the adaptability. He does so many things. He works with so many people and things like that. And then absolutely, as much as someone as tortured as Darth Maul could be, or Maul at this point, he does die in peace, and it's fan-freaking-tastic. Don't have the kids around for that one though.
Yeah, it's rough. And you brought up those relationships. I think also I have it for later on to discuss, but we're running a little short on time. This has been a great discussion. Richard Branson. Of course he's rich, whatever, but he can't stand up an airline on his own, right? He had to, if you don't know, he's the owner of Virgin Group, but he put that group together specifically as a capital group for them to build these high standard excellence in the air or on the sea, or Richard Branson wants to be the best and he wants it to be elite, and he'll do whatever it takes to make sure he can do that. And he is but one man, but he's one man that has a lot of friends, and those friends didn't happen overnight. Everyone knows when the rich dude walks in, everyone wants something from them, and he knows that, so he's got to be really careful. And you look at someone like Maul, who went through and built his relationships, built his alliances, had Ezra even in a way, really influential. And we've talked a little bit in the show about the difference between influence and manipulation. Yes, Darth Maul was a Sith and used manipulation, but he also used influence. Influence will get you so much further and deeper. It's the long game, but you gotta play it if you want to win. Otherwise, just like that firecracker, that fuse goes quick and it's out.
For sure. And for my money, he is on that manipulation influential scale. Like, he is the most influential Sith that we have come around. He, as much as a Sith can, things that he does genuinely care about some people and those relationships. Obviously, there's a lot of times a means to an end and anything like that, but he is, I guess, not as scheming would be the right word as some of the other Sith that we talked about. So,
more direct,
so for
yeah. Sure. For sure.
That's fair.
So let's move into kind of the Corbin corner and talk to you a little bit. You have things going on too. You've got your own podcast. I'd love to share with our no listeners yet, but we'll have listeners soon, about your podcast, and tell us what that's all about. I got to watch a little of that.
Okay, so I sow chaos wherever I go. And so I have another group of friends that we play games together. And so one day we were just like, because we kind of, what it really is we needed a way to schedule time just to hang out. And so every couple of weeks we block out a couple of hours and we're like, oh, let's make a podcast. If you're just listening, I did heavy finger quotes on that. And so it's very much so we just kind of talk about whatever is kind of going on. We talk about board games, video games, whatever happens to be going on. We talked about Diablo some a few weeks ago. We talked about 40K, Warhammer 40K, just general nerd stuff. We've talked about program and project development, just because we're all nerds of some
Sure.
type. We all kind of work in the IT space. And so, yeah, it's called the Winning Sometimes Show. It's just Winning Sometimes Show on YouTube, I'm pretty sure.
I'll put the link in the description.
Appreciate you.
Now, this is cool, man. This has been fun. Talk to me a little bit about your game. Well, before we go there, you are aware there's Comic-Con coming in September?
Yes.
Okay. For those people out there that have pull, I'm still trying to get my press pass. Yeah, I don't know if you...
What are you cosplaying as?
I don't know yet.
We'll work on it, because
Probably something Star Warsy.
Oh, all right. I'm just throwing it out there. There's a lot of comic book characters and video game characters that their day job is a reporter. So if you're getting a press pass, just throwing it out there.
I will. Yes, we will make sure that we are blending in perfectly. So, yeah, talk to me about your gaming stuff, though, because board games is not something, and I've been very vocal about this even in my article, I'm just not something I grew up with. And so I'm very intrigued at Warhammer and of course D&D and every facet of that, and it just seems Munchkin, the card thing, I just, there's so many cool things that I don't even know where to start. So just tell me about your favorite kind of board games or those sorts of role-playing games that you appreciate the most.
For sure. So there's a lot of games out there, like game systems, everything like that, and so I honestly think whether it's a role-playing game, whether it is a strategy game or something like that, there's always something out there that kind of fits everyone's niche. Some of my favorites I really like, as far as role-playing games go, I do Dungeons & Dragons 5e. Occasionally I will do Pathfinders, though I don't like it as much because I am chaos and there's too many rules. And I know a lot of people, they probably are like, oh, I don't really like board games because they grew up playing Monopoly.
Monopoly,
and
sure.
Just, domestic violence in a box, is basically what it was, right? And so, what the biggest thing I always tell people is not all games are like that. Games can be as complicated or as simple as you want. One of the ones that I love, I bought I think last year, is just called Cat Lady. And you legitimately, it's kind of a card game, if a deck building game, super, super loosely using that term. But you collect cats. You deal some cards out on the table, and your goal is to collect cats, and then collect enough food to make sure that they all have, they all have eaten by the end of the game. And, and it's got adorable little art and everything like that, so yeah.
I can just imagine just sitting around a table with a bunch of folks, drinking a beer, playing Cat Lady. What was it called? Cat Lady? No.
Yep, Cat Lady.
Oh my God. Link in the description.
It's spectacular.
I'll see if I can find it. That's insane, man. Oh my God. Well, I guess I have one more question for you before we move into fan theory. Would you consider being on the show again? You're gonna have to say yes, because I'm putting you on the spot.
I mean, yeah, we did not script this, so I really want to tell you no, but yeah, absolutely. I'm always game to talk about nerd things.
Sweet.
So yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
If it's something super esoteric, I don't know what's canon or not anymore, so I may have to study a little bit, but absolutely, I'm always
Give you a
always
heads
willing
up.
to talk Star Wars stuff.
Sure. No, this has been fun, man. So, fan theory that I ran into was still along this Maul and Ahsoka in the series, and Inverse had an article about it as well, and that's where some of that also had come up, where Heir of the Empire, and on that article there is a picture of the final showdown between Obi-Wan and Darth Maul also, so go check that out. So just a lot of that, the cloning piece, and we touched on some of that in Heir of the Empire last week when we were talking about Balin, and that he reminded us of, I can't remember the cat's name, Joris Sabath. So their theory is that there is cloning involved. I just don't know. I'd like to know your thoughts, just kind of high level, but I just don't think. I think the cloning's played out. We had Snoke that we found out was a clone, and the Emperor was a clone, and this was a clone, and the parents of Rey were clones. I'm a little cloned out.
No, for sure. Like, I agree with you. Like, I will be a little bit disappointed if Maul comes back as a clone or something like that. I mean, it would be a very convenient plot device for them to kind of be like, oh, this is who he used to be, but he's cloned, and now we can make him whatever we want, and he just still looks cool, right? So I would be a little disappointed if they brought him back as a clone. I don't know how else they bring him back, unless, I mean... is there like, can we bring him back as like a Sith ghost? I'm really not sure if that's a thing. Like,
yeah, Force ghost, absolutely, yeah. Exar Kun and I don't know, is all this stuff is it canon anymore? Exactly. Crap. So okay, this show does a lot of I don't care in that situation. Bring that piece in if it's not already canon. Bring it in as canon in this way, and I'd be 100% fine with it. Please don't clone him. He's too awesome of something, and I say something because he's bigger than just Maul. God, so good. Just do it right. So my thoughts were you could like with Ezra when they were together in the temple, you could see more of this in flashback mode, right? But you make it live action flashback, of course, because you're in a live action show, but you're live actioning back to the time in Rebels when. And I think if you can do some of that to explain maybe some more of what happened when he went off after Thrawn, Ezra, we have to kind of look at these bits that he learned from Maul or something like that. I'd appreciate that onion layering as well. But the clone thing. Eesh.
So you want my definitely not going to happen, but would be cool if they did?
Absolutely.
So, I don't remember what her name was, but like Darth Maul's mom, right?
Mm-hmm.
She was
Mother Townsend?
Yes, thank you. And so one of the things that she did was that effectively she possessed Dooku, and like the whole goal, what they were trying to do is effectively like, because she got her body died, but her spirit was still alive. Again, for those of you who don't know all this sort of stuff, it's freaking cool. Go check it out. And I apologize if I'm going to spoil this, but her body died, but her spirit was still alive, so they performed this ritual where they captured a Force powerful person, and like we're basically going to transplant her mind into his body. And so 0% chance I see Disney doing that. Like, they're not going to take a risk to go that far into the weeds. But holy crap, it would be great to know, like, if like somehow there's like, oh yeah, man, like his mind has been wandering the universe, for however long, and then he has some other sibling we don't know about, and they perform the ritual or whatever. That is my would be awesome, but never going to happen theory.
So his mind wandering the universe will drive someone mad. But if you recall, he was going mad in Rebels. He would have this creepy laugh. He's freaking losing his mind. Dude, a mad Sith Force ghost. Holy cow. All right, guys, if you're listening out there, Disney, y'all come talk to us. LucasArts, we'll get you square. Anyways, thanks, man. I appreciate that. That's a nice little piece to the theory. We are running out of time quick, so let's kind of recap. We talked about Maul and Ahsoka potentially coming into the show. Screen Rant was talking about that. There was the fan theory that we just got through, talking about how he could be in Ahsoka. And we talked about Maul and his adaptability, his perseverance and resilience, his... I don't know what else. He had relationship building. It's all there. And all of that stuff translates, as we do in every show. Work it into a way that you can use that in your life as a professional or in your personal life. And don't go cutting people into half or quarters. Don't cut people at all. That is against the law, and we do not condone that. But if you find yourself in trouble because something has happened in your life or in your work that has bunny ears cut you in half, perseverance, resilience, adaptability. Otherwise, you are just going to stay in the hole. Matt, thank you. This was fun. Seriously, can't wait to have you on again. And And your podcast show one more time?
It's Winning Sometimes Show.
Winning Sometimes.
If you Google it, it should come up.
Winning Sometimes. You can catch Matt on that. This is the Sith Dominion, and you will find me as a writer and on geeknewsnow.net. Our official YouTube channel is Geek News Now Official. So head over there, check us out. We will be doing a live show very, very soon, actually probably within the next couple days. So if you get a chance to see this beforehand, awesome. We'll see you live. Otherwise, thank you, Matt. We're out. Bye, guys.